everyone, this is Jim Delapine, and I am going to show you how to set up this week's assignment with regards to your layer masks. And it doesn't really go into detail as to how to do that, so I wanted to show you this because I think it's efficient and I think you need to hear this. Okay, so first of all, I've chosen a student's work to work with as a demo because it has some aspects of it that will give you a warning sign as to what to do and what not to do. So this is the sketch here. So the first thing you want to do is set up your final size document. But let's take a quick look at these documents here that she will be working with. Some of these are great, some of these are not, and some will need some color adjusting and so on and so forth. So for example, this is a very poor image. So that student will be rephotographing that or getting another sample. Let's start from the scratch though and create your final size document, which is 8 by 10 by 300. So Control N will bring up your new document board, and you want to make sure that inches is active here. So I'm going to type in 8 for the width. I'm hitting tab twice, so 10, and tab again down to 300 pixels per inch. Okay, so you've got an 8-inch wide document by 10 inches high by 300 pixels per inch. Your color mode will be RGB. If it was for printing purposes, it would be CMYK. All right, but for these purposes, RGB. Your background contents will be white, which really doesn't matter in this case, and accept all the other defaults, and we're going to hit OK. So now we have our new document to work with. This will be our final document. So what you want to do immediately is do a save. So I'm going to do File, Save As, and save it as, let's see, your last name underscore W382, and this should be last name, and we'll hit save. I don't know if you could see that in the preview screen here because of my recording. All right, so what I'm going to do first is this. I'm going to bring in this document into my final document. Now, my final document is, let's see here, it's right here. I can do one of several things. What I'll do is put a selection around this. All right, there's several ways of doing this kind of thing. So I can either copy it and paste it, or Control C and then click on this and Control V, or I can go to my Moved tool and click and drag up to that tab that has your last name, and then drag it down here. Then if you hold down the Shift and then let go of the mouse key, it will come into your document mathematically centered. If you didn't hold down the Shift, then it would be off-centered, wherever you let go. That's not a big deal. All right, so this happens to be just at about the size that we want. Now what you want to do is start bringing over your other documents. We're going to use this as a basic guideline to go by. You don't have to do this, but I'm going to. We can start bringing these in here. So let's look at first what I'm going to do. I'm going to bring in the guitar. All right, that's a main image here. So where is the guitar? All right. This guitar, it extends beyond our viewing area. So if you hit, let's see, Control 0, that will fit the document within your viewing area. I hit Control A, all right, to select all, Control C to copy it, go to my document, and Control V to paste. It will paste it in there. I immediately can see that this is a terrific image quality-wise and resolution-wise. If I look at the size of the image by either going to image size, I can see that this is 11 inches wide by 15 inches high by 300 pixels resolution. All right, and here's the pixel size of the document. So this was taken with a very good digital camera with a high megapixels. Another way to look at this really quickly is to hold down the Alt key and Alt click on the document window down here, and that will also give you the resolution, the format, and the size of the document. Okay, a little quick tip there. All right, so I brought that over to my final document. Now with this, I'm going to scale it down. So if I hit Control T for free transform, you'll notice that the bounding box extends out to the edge of the actual guitar document or layer. All right. You don't have access to that. So what you do is hit Control 0 to get access to the corner bounding boxes. And then you're going to click on any corner and start dragging in towards the center. And as you're dragging, you're going to hold down Shift constrain it. Otherwise, you get a distortion. So shift after you start to click and drag, and then once you get down to a size that you want, you're going to let go of the mouse first. But you can also hold down shift and alt, and that will scale into the center of the file. Okay? So now you want to make sure that you let go of your mouse key first, and then let go. All right, so if I drag to the side, I can kind of see the size I want. So I'm going to scale it up a little bit more, and I'll hit enter to apply that transformation. What you can do is lower the opacity of that layer, the guitar layer, to see underneath. And then you can see how good your fit will be. So we'll leave that as is. And bringing my opacity back up will make me happy. All right, so now it's the next step. First of all, let's look at a little bit of a retouching that we can do here. Notice that the guitar has a reflection in there. All right, here's a nice, easy way to remove that reflection. If you go to the patch tool, hidden in this area here, all right, and what you want to do with the patch tool is this. First of all, make sure that that layer is active. And what you want to do is click and drag and surround the area that you want to edit. All right, in the patch tool now. And then you're going to go to the center of that selection and click and drag away to another area that's comparable color-wise, and then let go. Bam. Photoshop automatically figures out what to replace it with, and it's like magic. All right, so you could do that with other areas here too. You just want to make sure you don't touch the sides here. It has to be a somewhat similar area. If I touch that side there, watch what would happen. If I click and drag over here and let go, you see this? It blurs up, so it kind of confuses Photoshop. It doesn't know what to do because it has these contrasting areas here. So I'm going to click and drag around that area again, staying away from the edges where there's contrasting pixels, and then clicking and dragging over to a comparable area and letting go with my mouse. All right, and it does a really good job. Actually, it did not do a good job. Let me just do this again. It did almost a good job. There we go. I had to do it again. All right, selecting an area that you want to repair or edit, and then going to the center and clicking and dragging to another area and letting go. So you don't always have the luxury of the area that needs to be retouched being in a solid color area like this. So this is made very easy for you. All right, so that's a little quick tip there. All right, so I mean, obviously there's a reflection here, but you have an issue over here. So let me just fix this first. All right, and now over here, you could kind of come in close and up, and sometimes this works, sometimes it doesn't. You see, it kind of blurs out there. So for perfection, and it's always the goal, you could always use the clone tool. All right. So if I select the clone tool, or the rubber stamp tool, it's often called, click on the drop-down menu and make sure 100% hardness is active. Otherwise, you'll get a blurred edge. All right, and then you want to select a brush size that's okay. So I'm using my right bracket key to increase my brush size and the left bracket key to decrease it. So right around here is fine. So I'm going to alt click and drag on an area that's going to replace this with. Okay, so I'm alt clicking here, letting go with the alt key, option if you're on the Mac, and now I'm going to click and shift click. Okay, and there you go. So if I alt click here, let go with the alt key, come over here and click and hold down the shift key and shift click, it's going to copy exactly those pixels in a straight line. So shift clicking does that. All right, let me undo that and undo again by hitting Control Alt C. All right, so we have our guitar. All right, so you'd go through the same process over and over again with each image. So now this is kind of a nightmare, because let's say you wanted this stand here. All right, you've got stuff in front of it, stuff behind it, and all kinds of contrasting stuff behind it. It's a very busy image, so my suggestion was to place a large sheet of white paper behind this area right here before you took the photograph. All right, so that's an issue. I would advise someone to go back and retake this photograph so that it just is not a nightmare with cutting out. All right, so I'm not even going to touch that one. So let me just close out of that, and we'll go on to the next step because I basically want to show you the overall gist of how to do this. You have here what are essentially the feet. Let's just talk about this for a second here. So this has a color cast to it. Now, there's all kinds of tools for removing that cast. Photoshop has these auto adjustments to go to Image Auto Color. And there you go. It removed that yellow cast to it. Okay, so now what I would do is I would just simply click and drag with my lasso tool, just a quick selection around that item, copying it, going to my final document, and I'm going to paste it. All right, so it's a nice big image. Now what I'm going to do is first of all, I'll reduce the opacity so I can see better through it, so I know how much to reduce it. Control T, all right, click and drag in, holding down the Shift key will constrain it, and holding down the Alt key also, or Option key, will scale it into the center point. And then I'm going to zoom in, so spacebar Control, click, click, click. All right, and then I'm going to go to the center of my bounding box. I'm still in free transform mode, and click and drag this downward. So keep in mind your end result is not what you're going to expect. All right, what you see on the sketch will never match. So you're going to have to do a little dancing here. Okay, so all right, so what we have here now is, if I bring the opacity back up, I now have my, and then you have your guitar on top of that. And what we'll need to do is simply use the stacking order because the pedal will be behind the guitar because it'll represent the feet. All right, now I'm not going to bother with the other ones. Let's quickly talk about how to start this out. All right, you are supposed to use layer masks. What I'm going to do is this. I'm going to go to my lasso tool, and I'm going to, with the guitar layer active, create a layer mask by clicking on this gray rectangle with the dark circle in the center. All right, so you've got a layer mask here. Now, I'm going to click just quickly. I'm going to hold down my Alt key and then start. I'm holding down the Alt key now, so I get that rubber band, and I'm surrounding the guitar. Click, 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 and I'm doing a very loose selection. All right, I just don't want to go over the guitar, and I'm just kind of quickly outlining the guitar. So once you have your selection, then create a layer mask. All right, the layer mask will react to the selection. So you now have a good start. Then you're going to bring in your next item, make a selection around what you want, and apply the layer mask. Now, let me see. Now I also want to show you what would happen if you tried to bring in a file that is not large enough. All right, so I'm talking specifically about this image here. So if I go to my Move tool and drag and drop this on top of my document file and let go, it is a poor quality image. If you zoom in, you could see all these JPEG artifacts, all the stair stepping. That's what you want to avoid. You want this kind of quality. All right, this high resolution quality. I'm going to stop this here because I did not want this to be that long. I tended to speak very quickly there's just so much to say, you know. I just wanted to, I want to share everything with you, but I don't want to spend hours working on a video for you. Now also with regards to this here, you want to really just bring in the photos. I actually did not do this how it should be done, all right, because I need to see all the layer masks in full. So that means that, so what I want you to do is actually bring in the whole image and just roughly and quickly scale it down to the size you think it should be. Hit enter, and then go around with your selection tool very loosely. All right, and then create your layer mask. All right, this way you have proper layer masks. You could change your mind. Now the whole idea of doing it this way is this. Once you have your layer mask and you have your image scaled, and let me do the image, image auto color. All right. Notice I had to have the document icon active as opposed to the layer mask active. Okay. Then with the layer mask active, you want to go to your paintbrush tool, select an appropriate size, make sure it's 100% hardness. And then with black as your foreground color and the layer mask active, you can start to click and shift click to go around in small increments. Okay, let me hide the sketch layer so you can see better. All right, so I'm shift clicking in small increments to slowly go around my image here. It's really important that you get very, very good cutouts. I don't want to see anything like this here. All right, nothing like that. All right, so it's a matter of clicking and looking at that circle's edge and shift clicking. So it's a little tedious, but you got to do what you got to do to get your perfect cutouts. And if you can't get into these little nooks and crannies, you simply reduce your brush size and then click and shift click. Okay. Now keep in mind that they'll come to a point where you're going to really essentially be creating this channel. Let me just quickly do this. All right, just make believe I'm doing a perfect job here. All right, so let me just do this. All right, so I want this moat around my image. And then I'm going to my lasso tool and clicking and dragging inside that little negative area, that transparent area. Alt clicking around with my lasso tool. You'll see why I'm doing this in 1 second. It kind of will enforce what layer masks are all about. All right, so I let go. I have my selection. Now, with the layer mask icon active, and knowing that filling parts of this with black will create transparency, I'm now going to inverse this selection. So right now, if I fill this, Alt Delete, it's going to get rid of my image. I want the opposite of that. So I'm going to inverse the selection. So Shift F7 inverses the selection. So now everything else but this pad here is selected. So now on the layer mask with that active, not the image, the layer mask has to be active. I'm going to fill this whole background area here with black. And that should do what? It should create transparency out of this and create that mask. So Alt Delete fills with the foreground color, Control Delete fills with the background color. So Alt Delete, and there you go. All right. So that principle should help you quite a bit. Okay, and I hope it has. All right. So now you'll need to make your scaling adjustments accordingly, and take it from there. I mean, for example, there are 2 feet here. So first I'd have to scale this down a little bit more. I may want to rotate it. And then with that layer active, if I hit Control J, it will duplicate that layer. As long as there's no selection active, it will duplicate the layer. So now I have 2 feet, and now I can angle that slightly for additional character and make them dance a little bit if I want. Okay, so I hope that was of value to you, and I'll speak to you guys soon.